Alright y'all, so the last video I dropped was a Q Beats video and I saw all the love on that video, so I got another one coming out very soon. But for today, we got a very special vocal video. I have not done a vocal video in a minute, so you know I had to come back with a banger sample and showing y'all all the sauce. And yeah, so here we're in the FOP. Y'all heard the preview, let's go straight to it. Alright, so here we are in the FOP. Now the FOP is pretty simple. As far as the first part, we have the vocal, piano, we have the vocal with a very ambient pad, and then we have a string section. Now the string section I'm gonna leave for the end because it's obviously a vocal tutorial. We're gonna get straight to the vocals first. So with that being said, let's move this out the way. For the first section, we have the chords, right? So you can't just record vocals with no reference. So I had to build some sort of chord foundation to record vocals on top. So for the chords, I used Keyscape. Now on Keyscape, I use this double felt grand dry preset. And then as far as the effects on here, I have a decent amount of effects, but before we get into those, here's how the chords sound on their own. Right, so real R&B type of chords. I was really just trying to go for that P&D Drake sound, like their latest album. As far as the chords, I don't know too much music theory. All I know is I'm using a bunch of minor ninths. As you can see here, this is a minor ninth. And then honestly, man, I'm just building on top. I first started with the bass notes. I knew I wanted them to go up the scale, as you can see here. And all I did is I took these up an octave, and like I said, I was just building up very simple chords, and then I built up even more, and then lastly the notes up here. I will say the last thing I did for these chords I felt like really gave it a lot of flavor and a real like emotional R&B feel was for the last chord. Instead of having a basic chord, which I think was similar to this, I added this note right here, but more importantly I added a little tension note. Now I don't know if this is what they're actually called, like the music theory term. I just call it tension note because it's a note that's right next to each other. Right, so this is mostly used in like dark horror sounding samples, but it's actually a really good technique to use in a lot of emotional samples as well. Now as far as the effects, I had a good amount of effects on here, but the main effect I have is this Abbey Road reel. But this is basically just a VST plugin, and it's adding, I guess you could say, like a little chorus effect, a little detune effect, and I want to add that for that vintage feel, just a real washed out sound. Then I have a EQ on here cleaning up some of the frequencies. I have a retro tape making it sound a little more retro, a little more like old, and then lastly a compressor just to kind of control the levels a little bit. So now the main part that you guys have been waiting for, and we have the chords. Now we have a foundation to record on. Now we get to the vocals. Now I actually have the same vocal. I sung the same vocal, but I have two different layers. Here's how both of those sound. Every time I call you, who you think you dancer? Who you think you dancer? Who you think you dancer? So yeah, it's basically the same recording, except one is a lot more filtered out and has a lot more effects, delay, reverb, all that type of stuff. So step one, as far as recording these vocals yourself, the first thing you want to do is once you have your piano or your chords or whatever foundation you want to record on top, you're going to do some very simple VST. So what you're going to do is, for me, the final product is at, I think it was at 95, 96, 97 BPM, around this range. So for these vocals, I actually took it down all the way to 70. So I went from like 97 all the way down to 70, and I recorded them at this BPM. Now what this is going to do is it's going to slow it down, obviously, and it's going to give you a lot more time to hit the precise notes and make sure you're hitting every note as best as you can, and to add a little bit of vibrato. Vibrato is very important to add that little flutter, that little shakiness in your voice, like P&D. A lot of R&B vocals, a lot of R&B samples. Now along with that very speed, you're also going to pitch it up. So for here, I didn't pitch it up here. I finished the entire sample, and then on the master I pitched it up. But once you record your very speed here, as you can see, I basically just did one long take, just freestyling, just coming up with a bunch of like ideas. And then once I was done, I just took chops that I liked. Here was the rough idea. Call you, when I call you, every time I call you, who you think you dancer, who you think you mentor, who you think you dancer. Call you, when I call you, every time I call you, you never gonna answer, who you think you dancer. Now, hey, I am not good at doing any of these vocals at all, but if you, the VST technique is so overpowered, it really needs to get nerfed because it could turn anybody into a decent singer. So yeah, this was the foundation. In my opinion, no matter what effects you add, VSTs or whatever, nothing is gonna save a bad recording. So step one is to just take your time and getting a really good solid recording, because effects are not gonna save it if it sucks, bro. You're just gonna waste your time. Now, you got a solid recording, you've chopped it up, whatever. All I did before before I went on to the effects was I added a little like layer, a little stack right here. And I basically just took a different part, a different recording where I set the same line, layered it on top, and lowered the volume just to kind of tuck it in the background. Now, moving on to the effects. It was pretty simple. I have a altar boy to do a little bit of format shifting. I brought it down 1. It's really not a huge difference, not too noticeable, but it's just kind of filter out the voice a little bit. Then I have a compressor to control the levels. I got an EQ filtering out the vocal, and then most importantly, I have a delay. I have this 1/16 delay on here, and this is going to make it so it's not so dry, and it has a little cool little echo effect in the background. Now that was pretty much it. After that, I rendered that out onto the second recording, but this one has a micro shift and then a filter on here. Every time I call you, you think you dancer, you think you dancer. Actually, my bad, I have it right here. It was not a micro shift, it was this weird ass looking plugin, 3000 factory. I don't know, but I use this and I use this preset right here. You could get the same effect with micro shift. I thought I used a micro shift, but it was just this. Now, once I rendered that out, on top of this one, I added these very simple effects. I have it just pancake, moving left and right, and then that same delay, the 1/16, and then just an EQ, cleaning up the frequencies and then raising the highs. And then I pan this one to the right, and then I have the one I just showed y'all, this one, pan to the left, so they have their own little area. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. That's how I made the vocals to this sample. Now, obviously, making vocals could take a lot of time, and some of you may struggle a little bit in the beginning with recording your own vocals. Sometimes, you know, we're on a rush, so I decided to put a vocal tapes bundle like I got right here for y'all. I have 3 vocal kits, and I decided to put all of them in one bundle for the price right here, cheap price. Vocal tapes 1, 2, and 3, packed with over 130 vocal phrases. You have the wet ones, you have the dry ones, so you can add your own effects on here. I have 3 exclusive vocal tutorials on here. You guys could just watch, learn the process, how I made this kit, how I make my vocals, you know, more details. Compatible with any DAW, very easy, just drag and drop, very, very simple. So if you guys would like to check these out, I have the first link in the description down below. But with that being said, man, let's wrap up this video. Next, I have the same MIDI that I showed earlier. I just have it on the piano, but I have a Valhalla shimmer on here. I have this preset on Valhalla shimmer, and it has this really cool pad effect. And then I have it fading out into the string section. Again, the string section is very, very simple. It's the same exact MIDI that I showed you guys earlier. I just layered it with 3 different strings, and then I have a simple top melody. So for these strings, it's very simple. Like I said, I use the same MIDI for all of them. So for the first one, I use the cello, bow, ripples. For the second one, exact same MIDI. All I use is the bow sustain for the cello. Again, the third one, same MIDI. This one I use the finding harmonics inside the cello. And then last one, I have a very simple like top melody, I guess like little arpeggiated melody with the into harmonic bass. I have no effects on any of these except the first 2. All I have is a Valhalla shimmer and then an EQ, and then the second one, all I have is a EQ on here. So very, very simple. But after that, it was pretty much it. I rearranged the rest of the sample with the vocals, piano, the pad, all that stuff, and this was the final sample. But man, with that being said, that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys do want to check the vocal tapes bundle, it'll be the first link in the description down below. But I hope you guys did enjoy something new. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.